Okay, Hero of the Rails wasn't too bad, so let's jump into season 13 and see how that goes. Season 13 caused me to lose all my hair. Thomas and Friends, Season 13. This series aired from January 2010 to February 2010 in the UK, and from September to November 2010 in the US. Michael Angeles and Michael Brandon narrated all of the episodes, but much like Hero of the Rails, voice actors provided the voices of the characters. In order to cut costs and maximise profits, because let's face it, that's what every corporation does, Hit Entertainment decided to retire the live action models and figurines in 2009, and started using full CGI animation for the rest of the franchise. And at this point, they enlisted Nitrogen Studios to provide the visuals. Nitrogen Studios had already created CGI elements for the 12th season of Thomas and Friends. Christopher Scala stated that the reason behind switching to the full CGI style was to add more emotion and flexibility through the stories. Previously, Scala had stated that, as of his focus group, even those who felt that Thomas as an institution should not be changed in this way, ultimately responded positively to the new animation style. Something that I found interesting when reading about this season was the critical reception that it received. It was proven to be quite popular, with rankings of 86% in the UK through Channel 5's Milkshake, 50% in the US through PBS Kids, and 47% in Australia's ABC. I'm thinking this is probably more around the CGI style than the stories themselves because they absolutely sucked. What really bothers me the most is the come down from Hero of the Rails, which was surprisingly good, to this. I know that I went off on one a little bit around season 12, but season 13 has caused me to go bald. I actually feel ill from this season. This is nothing against the director, Greg Tiernan, or the producer, Nicole Stinn, or Robert Hartshorn's musical scores. All of these aspects were done extremely well. It's the stories themselves. I know at this point in the franchise's history, we are now in full pander to babies territory. But come on. The classic series and the Railway series books were marketed for kids and toddlers and babies, but they were popular because they didn't pander to the audience. It kept kids and adults engaged. Things are hammered home a lot more in this season that we really didn't want. The Three Strikes formula, the rhyming speech, the condescending storylines, and the absolute mess that is this era is on full display in this season. I got 5 episodes into this season and was instantly thinking, why am I doing this to myself? I had to keep reminding myself that I'm doing this for the fans of my channel. They want to see my videos. They want me to carry on with the seasons. And I think as a Thomas fan and a content creator, you need to not only give your audience what you want, but you need to have a complete education of a franchise as a whole. I never saw the Sharon Miller era when it came out, because I was way beyond its target audience at that time. But for my channel, and for the fans of my channel, I am putting myself through this torture for you. The only saving grace is that it's 20 episodes long, which means I'm just going to do like I did with season 12, one big ass ranking video, from worst to best. Again, these are all my own opinions, and your list will be different from mine. It's the one thing that makes the Thomas fandom so unique. And let me know in the comments what your ranking list would be for this season. All I ask is that you be respectful, and above all, enjoy the video. Okay, let's dive in. Number 20, Thomas and the Runaway Kite. Written by Louise Kramskoy. After Stephen and Bridget Hatt's kite flies away, Thomas tries to catch it, but soon realizes that he needs to ask for help. I'm sorry, this episode is ridiculous. He's chasing a runaway kite for the Fat Controller's grandkids. That is the premise of this episode. Everything about this is extra annoying, from the rhyming speech to Thomas being a complete dumbass to the fact that Charlie is in it again, and we need 5 engines to help Thomas catch a kite. Are you kidding me? Do these engines not have anything better to do? My god, this was terrible. I gave this a 0 out of 10 when I was coming up with my initial thoughts. I could not find anything redeemable about this episode. Number 19, Slippy Sodor. Written by Mark Robertson, Thomas is teased by the big engines about his funny funnel and causes trouble for the Fat Controller and Mr. Bubbles. There's lots of people in this world that have phobias of clowns. You show them this episode, they will be traumatized for life. Let's start with Mr. Bubbles himself. He is so annoying. I don't know who approved the voiceover work for Mr. Bubbles, for the UK dub at least, but my god, I wanted to strangle him. It was awful. This episode's premise is so stupid that I actually was ready to claw my eyes out. I really tried hard to find positive points with this, and unlike my previous entry, I did find some. Having Kevin and Victor in an episode instantly elevates it. And I did like the unique camera angles that were showing the Fat Controller and Mr. Bubbles in the car. That kind of point of view was a type of shot that you wouldn't really have seen in the model era. But it just wasn't good. Michelangelo's voiceover work as well, like his narrations, it just felt like he was just screaming. He was just told, be loud, that's better. It wasn't better. He was so much better than that. Number 18, Splish Splash Splosh. Written by Shannon Miller, Thomas and Rosie play Splish Splash Splosh. But when Thomas splashes the Fat Controller and Alicia Botti, he must put things right. I'm actually surprised that Rosie was in this episode. Don't get me wrong, she's a completely generic blank slate character who doesn't have much to do, but at least she was in it. The whole episode though was just rotten. The rhyming speech, Thomas being an arsehole and splashing every engine in sight. I'll be honest, the second that I saw the title of the episode and the alliteration, I just knew it was going to be bad. This was a real slog to get through. And Alicia Botti is actually in more than one episode in a season. This is quite weird. Number 17, Thomas and the Pigs. Written by Alan Lenderleaf, Thomas is to bring straw to Farmer Trotter's pig farm for the piglets, who are soon to be born. But Thomas thinks they will like other things better. Again, the title alone just made me sad. Don't get me wrong, this is evidence of the animation style actually working for an episode, because you at least get to see the pigs acting like real pigs. If they tried this in the model season, I don't think it would have been as effective. I'm sorry guys, I'm really clutching at straws here. This episode was bad. For starters, Farmer Trotter is every stereotype of a farmer rolled into one. I think because I'm married into farming stock, with my wife's aunt and uncle owning a dairy farm, it made me feel angry for them. The story itself is so repetitive. The premise is just the Lion of Sodor, except done worse. And I didn't think that was possible. Thomas just takes random things from other engines' jobs because he thinks the pigs might like them, which, of course, causes complete chaos. Also the fact that Thomas took bags of chestnuts from children for the pigs. They're even screwing over their target audience in this episode. And of course, at the end, Farmer decides to name one of the piglets Thomas. All I'm thinking is, please don't tell a child who eats that bacon sandwich that his name was Thomas. Number 16, Double Trouble. Written by Shannon Miller, Thomas thinks he's taking the Fat Controller to his birthday party, but it turns out to be his brother. Okay, as a father of identical twin boys, I instantly felt infuriated with this plot. I know that being a dad of identical twins, a lot of people have trouble telling them apart. It's normally the parents that can tell the difference between them because there's a little feature or a personality trait that we know that others don't. So Topham Hatt's brother has a big off mustache, does not act in any way like Topham, and nobody twigged that it might not be him. At first I thought I was watching an episode of Scooby-Doo and there was going to be a whole face reveal that it was someone else impersonating Sir Topham. But no, this is Sir Loam Hat, his identical twin. How this guy honestly became a Sir, I have no idea, because he is extra stupid. Oh my god, incredibly annoying. For starters, he's playing hide and seek with kids, jumping out of Annie and Clarabelle to go and annoy Signalman. How did Thomas not get that this guy wasn't Sir Topham Hatt? Even the target audience would have known. I think this type of premise could have been interesting if it was done in the Brenner era, with better writing, and maybe fleshed out into a movie. You could have made Sir Loam Hat Topham's evil twin, who comes to the island and very subtly causes chaos with his railway. That could have been an interesting story. This was garbage. I don't know, maybe I was just suffering from fatigue by this point in the season. Yes, I know we were only 4 episodes in at this point, but watching this made me think that someone had spiked my drink. The only reason I knew that they hadn't is because I was alone in the house. Number 15, Playtime. Written by Shannon Miller, Charlie, the new engine, challenges Thomas to race him around the island, causing Thomas to neglect his jobs. The introduction of Charlie. And now I understand why people appreciate Billy so much more. Charlie is apparently the most fun engine ever. What he really is an annoying prick. And not in the fun way like established, grounded, well-rounded characters are. He's just a straight up twat. If Charlie is what you're meant to be like when you're fun, then I am so glad that I am the boring old fart that I have always been and always will be. I know this is going to be a repeat of everything that I'm probably going to say in every episode, but the rhyming speech just ripped through my skull. Charlie to me is like what happens when you give an overactive child too much sugar. The engines want to prove who is more fun. I can give them an answer right now. Neither of them are fun. But something interesting that I found out in this is that Topham Hatt's first name is actually Bertram, as in the old warrior Bertram from season 5 that they completely forgot about. And I think they completely forgot about this too, because I thought his first name was Topham. We live and learn. Number 14, Time for a Story. Written by Miranda Larson. After ignoring warning signs about track repair, Thomas's trucks of books derail, so he brings the children to the books instead. So Thomas is taking trucks of books to children, and he leaves before the books are covered up in the trucks. I'm not denying that this is a problem, but this was something that they'd done a lot in the previous era, and it was never highlighted. I kind of feel like I have to give them props for it though, because they are addressing a concern that probably a lot of fans would have been screaming about back then, but double standards, guys. The crash with the trucks was kind of alright, but the story is just generic and predictable. Number 13, A Blooming Mess. Written by Miranda Larson, Emily thinks that Mavis needs to be cheered up, so she brings her some flowers, but winds up causing confusion and delay. It was so hard not to say that in the voice of the Fat Controller. Once again, this is just showing that the writers can't write for female characters. And I think the worst part of it is that it's the female writer who's writing for female characters and can't write for female characters. Because Mavis doesn't say hello to Emily, that's the whole crux of this story going completely tits up. And of course, the idea is completely sexist. Women like to get flowers to be made to feel better. Aww. Don't get me wrong, I am very glad that bitch Emily from the hit era is completely gone. And then Emily Mavis pairing would have been something that, if done right, could have been great and given each character much more growth. But this was not a strong episode. Number 12, Toby's New Whistle. Written by Louise Kramskoy. Toby's bell needs repairs, so he is given a very loud whistle while it is being mended. Toby is scared to use a whistle. Why is he still acting the way that he did in the hit era? I know it doesn't really change, but it just annoys me so much. We all know how much I love this character. Although I do kind of understand why, because it's something that's completely alien to him, and having such a drastic loud change would be jarring. And Toby using the whistle to save Gordon at the end of the episode was actually really good. But again, it's scared old Toby trope. It's just made the episode forgettable for me. Number 11, The Lion of Sodor. Written by Mark Robertson, Thomas has to deliver the Lion of Sodor to Knapford, but he thinks that the lion is real and tries to feed it. This only causes confusion and delay. I'm edging closer to saying that in the voice of Topham. I'm really trying not to. Thomas thinks he's taking a real lion to Knapford in a box with no air holes. I do kind of understand if you look at it from an engine's point of view. They don't know how humans and animals are alive. But why did he think it was a good idea to just pour in syrup from Henry's load into the box? Even if it was a real lion, that lion would have been pissed. The outcome of the story was predictable because of course it was going to be a statue. And again, rhyming speech, 3-strike formula, they're all present. But at least it tried to establish something new in the lore about this Lion of Sodor statue. And it wasn't entirely bad, right? Or am I just going crazy? Number 10, Percy's Parcel. Written by Robin Chartres. After Percy ruins Dowager Hat's birthday parcel, he hides in a siding. When he overhears Mavis, he gets an idea of how to fix his mistake. Mavis at Tidmouth is an odd cameo, but a welcome one. And then of course it winds up being the plot device for this entire episode, because that's how Percy's parcel gets covered in dust, then gets wet at the washdown, and then crumped at the steamworks. And Mavis even helps to resolve the situation, even though she didn't really know it. Dowager Hat being in it was an interesting choice, but it just makes me long to get to the Brenner era that much faster because they really flesh out her character at that point. Right now she might as well have just been the model figure from the hit era because she doesn't do anything. Number 9. Henry's Good Deeds. Written by Alan Heskett. Henry attempts to help people but ends up scaring away the Sodor Warbler, a very famous bird. Well, at least Henry's still being the eco-warrior. He's delivering something to help a bird. But, of course, like every other engine, he gets way too distracted, trying to do other things. I do find that ironic that it's Henry who scares the pigs and the Sodor Warbler, because throughout the rest of this era, Henry becomes a massive bag. But thank God, there was no rhyming speech. Number 8. Creaky Cranky. Written by Sharon Miller, Cranky teases Thomas about being small. But when he breaks down, it's up to Thomas to save him. Cranky is a character that really benefited from the CGI era coming into effect. It felt like they were able to do more with him. He wasn't just move to left, move to right, occasionally move arm up and down. You had a bit more flexibility with him, and it felt like his character actually grew, which was surprising for this era and for this episode. It is repetitive, from the dialogue to the situation with Thomas and Cranky to Michelangelo's alliteration. Oh dear God, the alliteration is just so bad in this season. But the exciting incident with Cranky breaking down was actually pretty good. And having Spencer, who was a baddie and hero of the rails, be the one to help resolve this situation was an interesting twist. It was pretty standard, but we'll take standard at this point. Number 7. Buzzy Bees. Written by Sharon Miller, Tom's special of bees escape when he goes by a flowery meadow. So he takes Hero's flower truck to try and lure them back to their hive. Having Hero in this season is what saved it for my mental health. And having Hero in the first scene of this episode is a good start. He gives a good exposition dump about the bees and is stern with Thomas when he tells him to look after the bees. It's just a shame that Thomas didn't take his advice, because as we all know, Sodor plus bees equals disaster. Toko Igawa, who voices Hero, just brings everything up a notch. He is such a great voice actor, and he's perfect for this character. He brings that level of gravitas that is missing in this season. The rest of the story is pretty predictable, but Hero is the redeeming factor. Number 6. Tickled Pink. Written by Alan Plenderleaf, James is sent to the steamworks to be repainted, but he is repainted into a pink livery to keep the water out of his paintwork, and the other engines laugh at him. Okay, everybody, get out your system. You like a James episode? Yes, I do like James episodes. At this point, he was still pretty true to his character. He's very vain about his paintwork. He knows the engines will laugh at him because he's pink and doesn't want to be made fun of. He's got an inferiority complex. I know I've just reviewed the Railway series books, but the fact that they explain an undercoat in this is very reminiscent to Henry and the Express book by Christopher Audrey. But by today's standards, everybody laughing at a boy in pink is not okay. I was guilty of it when I was younger, and I had to make a lot of apologies for that attitude. And when those girls said that pink was their favourite colour, does it mean it just felt that it had that Twins from The Shining kind of vibe? He was bright pink, and it was a relatively bright story. Number 5. The Biggest Present of All. Written by Sharon Miller, Hero is returning to Sodor, and the Fat Controller is planning a welcome party. Thomas is told to tell the other engines, but looks for a present for Hero instead. Hero is homecoming. Don't get me wrong, it kind of undercuts the poignant ending of Hero of the Rails, but I think they realised by this point that the season wasn't going to be up to snuff and we needed Hero back. And oh boy, that was a smart move, because 1 minute in, and already it is an absolute belter of an episode. Oh wait, now it's back to type. Bad rhyming, Thomas not focusing on his jobs, everything going wrong, you get the idea. The opening scene with Hero and the last scene with Hero are what really put this episode above a lot of the others on this list. Number 4, The Early Bird. Written by David Richard Fox. While Percy is at the steamworks for repairs, Thomas must pull the mail, but he does not want to ask for his advice. This is so ironic because I had mentioned about Edward and the Mail that the premise of the story was good, but would make more sense with an Emily or a Thomas as the lead character. And sure enough, in this series, they do the same premise, roughly, with Thomas as the main character, roughly. And it's a better episode. I really enjoyed this one. A lot of the visuals that they used were fantastic as well because it was early morning scenes and you were seeing Sodor like it wasn't seen in previous seasons. Quite quiet, quite serene. Felt very kind of classic era-esque. Thomas not knowing what to do but thinking that he actually does know what to do is very in character for him, even in classic era style. I never thought that a season 13 episode would take the premise of a season 11 episode and do it better, but I'm thankful to say that I was proven wrong. Well done. Number 3. Snow Tracks. Written by Alan Heskett, Gordon is told not to go up any hills, but when he does, he creates a giant snowball which crashes into Thomas. A winter episode, the first one of the CGI era, and it looked stunning. Absolutely beautiful. Nitrogen Studios take a bow. This is a great story for Gordon to be the lead in. It made sense for him. I think if it was Thomas in the lead, it wouldn't have been as good. But Thomas being a side character of this story was actually a really smart choice, especially when they got hit with that giant snowball. I don't know if I was succumbing to madness by this point, but I laughed out loud when that happened. But it just shows you that even in a bad era, Gordon-centric episodes are still good. Number 2, Steamy Sodor. Written by Sharon Miller. When Thomas is put in charge of the steamworks, havoc ensues. I love this because Thomas was put in a situation that none of us have seen before. He was in charge of the steamworks, which we had only seen in Hero of the Rails, so there was a lot of potential to be explored around this location. And in fairness, they really played to that potential. The irony of it though, is that I also would have liked to have watched an episode where Victor had went to see the little engines, which was what he was doing to create the plot of this episode in the first place. I do love the fact though that this was a Sharon Miller episode and she couldn't get Kevin's rhyming right. It just sounded off. I think that's actually what saved it. This episode reminded me of an old farce play. I loved being in farcical comedies when I was on stage. I loved things like the Three Stooges, and this had that type of formula for me. There were some great visual gags, the premise of it was really good, and the episode kept me engaged, which a lot of these episodes did not do. And the number 1 episode of Thomas and Friends season 13 is Hero Helps Out. Written by Shannon Miller, Hero gives the engines orders when he thinks the Fat Controller is too busy to do it himself. I think if you were going to have a hero-focused story, it had to be an absolute belter. And I've got to give credit to Shannon Miller. This one was. This showed a lot of different sides to Hero. It showed his vulnerability. It showed his humility. It shows that he's willing to take the initiative. And it shows how honourable he is. He wants to help. He doesn't necessarily do it in the right way, but when he realises that he has made the mistakes, he goes and he rectifies them. This is the type of things that we look for in character development, especially in newer characters. Kevin and Victor haven't had that much character development in this season since Hero of the Rails, and I wanted to know more about them, and I want to know more about Hero, and I'm getting to know more about him in one episode than I did in an entire season for Kevin and Victor. We know that in Hero of the Rails, Hero was the master of the railway, and in this episode, it shows that he is the master of his emotions and his maturity. Great story, great character. Toko Uegawa's voice acting was superb, as always, and you really did, for once, save the best episode for last. Well done, Shannon Miller. And that's my ranking video of Thomas and Friends Season 13. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this season. Was I overly harsh? Was I not harsh enough? Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep on chugging.